Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, or whatever the time is, wherever you are, and welcome to the Bushhawk RC Aviation podcast. This is a special editions podcast with the topic of IMAC, which is International Miniature Aerobatics Competition. And today on the podcast, we have Harrison Ritter from the United States, who is an IMAC Intermediate Champion of this year, I believe. Welcome, Harrison.
I am. Hello. Quick correction. I'm Australian, not American.
Sorry about that.
Should we,
Sorry.
should we should we start again? Should we start
No,
again?
no, 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 that's fine. Well,
Oh yeah, righto.
yeah. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. I've just had the rest have been Americans, so I got that bit confused. Cool. So, so Harrison, you are quite big into IMAC. Am I right in saying
Yeah,
that's like your
yeah,
main?
absolutely.
Okay, cool.
It's like my main thing that I do when I go fly. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so tell me what is IMAC? What is it?
So IMAC basically it's scale aerobatics. So what we do is we get scale aircrafts, so replicas of full-size aircraft that are legally able to fly aerobatics, and we fly them in competitions performing scale sequences that the real aircraft would fly.
Okay. And is when you speak about scale, what sort of scale are we generally looking at for these planes?
So size-wise, it could be like really small, like a foamy almost size, just like 1 meter, to up to like 3 meter wingspan models. So some of them can get really big. They have like 200 cc engines, 4 cylinder. So it really depends how big you want to go. You can go small if you want, but if you want something that flies really nice, yeah, there's the 3 meters available that fly really well.
Okay. And your 3 meters probably like 120 cc, I'd guess, or something
The
like that.
3 meters usually about 200 cc.
Okay, so that's
The
pretty big.
120 cc is, yeah, more like 2.6 meter size. So still big.
Yeah, it is. It's much larger than what you'd normally fly if you bought a foamy from from a hobby store. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, cool. And in terms of what uh, a lot of people are saying that to get into IMAC, it can be very expensive. Would you say that is true to get into IMAC?
No, not necessarily, because you can take it as seriously as you want to. So you can buy a really, really small plane, cheap radio, go enter in a basic competition. You can spend like, I don't know, just a few $100s even, just to get started. But if you want to take it seriously, the options there. You can spend like thousands of dollars, buy a really nice plane, but you don't have to. Like
Yeah,
someone can be competitive with, I don't know, a 2 meter model 50C. So even like a foamy can be competitive with. As long as you put in the practice, you're able to be competitive. There's like no limit really. So yeah, you don't have to spend a lot of money.
at at the end of the day, it's mainly the practice and the pilot that sort of determines how well you do.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Okay, cool. And I believe with IMAC, sort of like the beginning one, which is IMAC Basic, I believe. There's no limit on how small your plane can be, and it doesn't have to be a scale aerobatic plane. You could use a stick or an ultra stick or something like that.
Yeah, that's correct. In basic, you can fly anything you want as long as it's able to do the aerobatics that are required, and as long as it can hold somewhat of a vertical upline, you're allowed to use it.
Okay, so as if you wanted to, you'd be able to use a pattern plane in IMAC Basic, and it is okay.
Yep, yeah, yep.
So it's essentially any plane that will sort of climb vertically and do the maneuvers that are required.
Yeah, that's it. So you could use something like, as you said, like a stick. People use
Yeah,
decathlons, they use pattern planes, just anything. As long as it's aerobatic, you can use it in basic.
cool. And in terms of getting started, what would be like if someone has been flying RC, they're a reasonable pilot, but like normal flying is getting a bit boring now. And they want to spice the things up a bit. what should they do to get into IMAC? Like competitions, or I believe there's primers or that type of thing that you can go to learn about it, that type of thing.
Yeah, so oftentimes there's things called IMAC come and try days. So it's not a competition, but the IMAC people in the area host them to promote IMAC, give you a try of what it's about. They let you fly a sequence, and they'll give you like pretend scores just to give you like an experience of what the environment's like. But if you're actually wanting to get into competing, the best thing to do is to go to the IMAC website, which is miniiac.com, I think it's called,
Yeah,
and
I'll stick that
go
in the
to
link.
regions. And yeah, so yeah, so you go to the regions tab on the website, and you'll find the regional director for your like part of the world. So I don't know, if you're in America, there's something like 4 or 5 different regions. If you're in Australia, like I am, we've got our own regional director. There's one for Europe, there's one for South America. So the best thing to do would be contact them. I think there's an email on there if I remember right. So just send them an email, and they'll tell you, say, if there's a competition on in your area, or who you can get in contact who might be local to you to learn more about flying and getting into a competition.
Okay, cool. So, so contact them and find a competition, or go to the tryout days, as I
Yeah,
guess
yeah,
you.
that would be it.
Okay, cool. And then there's a couple of questions here that I'm seeing by our viewers who have submitted them. One is, what is the weird squiggly stuff they called a resty? I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You are pronouncing that correctly. So pretty much a resty it's like a diagram of the maneuver basically. So it's not what it's actually going to look like with the plane, but it's what you should be aiming to draw in the sky. Because pretty much what IMAC is we have to draw shapes in the sky. That's the simple way of putting it. So that's the shape we have to follow. So say that if one's called a shark's tooth, which is pretty much just a triangle like that. So you got to fly along level, pull to an inverted 45, and then pull to a vertical down. So pretty much you have to fly the shape of what the arrestee is showing.
Okay, and are the points awarded for accuracy, or what are the points normally awarded for?
So the point system is a bit different to what you'd actually expect. So we start at 10 points, so start as perfect, and then points are taken off for like little mistakes or just like deviations in the flying. So say your upline isn't a true 45, that might be a few points off. Say you're wiggling around like that, that could be a few points off. If one line is shorter than the other, if your rolls aren't centered, or if you just make a full-on mistake in the maneuver, it's just a straight zero. So the worse the mistake is, the more points that are taken off, pretty much.
Okay, and I'm assuming that you can't get a negative score for the for maneuver.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
you can't get a negative score. It just goes down to a zero, and that's it.
okay, cool. So it doesn't affect the, if you do one really badly, at least it doesn't affect the rest of them.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And now, um, what? How did you get started into IMAC?
So it's actually a bit of a long story. So I've always liked aerobatics with flying. Um, yeah, it's just something I've always been interested in. I always like it when I go to like full-size air shows and stuff. So I think it was 2020, I decided I'd get into like aerobatic competitions. But originally in the start, I actually was flying F3A, so pattern flying. I have a good friend, and he flies F3A, and he said he'd help me get into F3A, like help teach me how to fly it, all stuff like that. So I thought, all right, this will be for me. I'll go do that. And I did. I did F3A for 2 years, so 2020 and 2021. I was doing all right in that, but I was trying to encourage my friends to do it, and they were all going to IMAC. So I thought, all right, I've got nothing against F3A here. It's a good competition, but I don't have any friends to fly with, and I want to be able to fly with my friends, compete against them, and do that. So I thought, all right, I'll give IMAC a shot. If I like it, I'll keep doing it. If not, I can always go back to F3A. So I went to IMAC, started flying with my friends, and ever since then, so my first competition was this year, February of this year. I've
Huh,
just loved it ever since. It's great.
okay. And evidently you've been doing quite well to become the champion. Is it a champion of a state or a champion of the country in intermediate?
So I'm both actually. I'm the champion of the state that I live in, so Victorian champion, and then I'm Australian champion for intermediate as well.
Okay. Okay, cool. So you've been doing reasonably well. Um,
Yeah, pretty well.
okay. And what plane are you currently flying? Just for the viewers to.
Currently, I fly a Goldwing Extra 300. It's a slightly older airframe, but to be honest, it's still really competitive. Like at the Nationals, I was versing 3 meter lasers, 3 meter yaks, and all of them, and I still managed to do well with my plane. So yeah, I'm a bit of an extra fanboy though. I like my extras. I have an extra NG out in the shed that I've got to build, and I have my other extra as well. They're my favorite plane. They're so nice.
Okay, nice. Cool. Um, so I'm just thinking, are there any other questions? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to the IMAC website and we'll see what questions are answered. Then we'll get your opinion from them.
Yep.
So, international mini aerobatics. Okay, there it is, mini ISE. Okay, their website is a little bit slow. Where do we find questions? So are there any other pieces of advice that you would offer to someone who wants to get started into IMAC?
I'd say the only advice I'd give is if you want to do well, you just got to practice. Like if you want to come to the competition and expect to do well, but rock up having no practice at all,
Yeah,
you're not going to do well because frankly, you're not going to know what the maneuvers are. You're going to be making mistakes. The best thing to do is to like fine tune your performance. Go out to the field. If you've got a petrol plane, burn through a whole tank of petrol, and just practice the same sequence over and over again. It can get boring, but the feeling of mastering it is like it's the best thing ever. Like you just want to do well once you've mastered it, and then when you go
yeah.
to a comp and do well, like it pays off. It's just good once you know, yes, I'm doing this well. I'm doing everything right. Yeah, like yeah,
Okay. So preferably practice beforehand and rather than pitch up at a event and do absolutely terribly. Might also be a bit discouraging if that happens.
yeah.
Okay. So I'm just seeing here, I'm just looking on the IMAC website for what questions they have. So the one is that I need a big plane, which as we've already covered, you don't actually, because in basic you can fly anything.
Yep.
And it's expensive. Again, it's not exactly true. I mean, it can be expensive, like any hobby. It's as expensive as much as you spend. And then, as you said, so should you also get an IMAC or someone that's already in IMAC to sort of like help you practice to make suggestions in what you should be doing better?
I would say yes. If you have access to someone that's willing to help you, definitely
Yeah,
take up on the offer because they'll be able to point out exactly what you're doing wrong, especially if they're in a higher class. Say if they're like an advanced pilot and you're in basic, if they're up in a class like that, they're usually able to like pick out all the mistakes in your flying. So if you can get someone like that to help you and
yeah.
guide you to make sure you're flying correctly and you know what you're doing, that's definitely something I recommend doing.
Okay, cool. And yeah, so if you can get someone who's had more experience than you and who can suggest what you're doing wrong, because I might be thinking I'm doing this perfectly, but meanwhile I'm actually doing completely the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that is pretty much in terms of questions. So it's for it's not for a beginner pilot. Would you say you need to at least know how to fly reasonably well before starting IMAC basic?
Yeah, that is something that's true. You need to know how to like be able to fly a plane straight and level because they
Yeah,
judge you. on how straight you can fly. If you're wheeling around trying to fly straight and it just like you're not lined up for a maneuver, say, they will get you on points. So
Okay.
you need to be able to fly reasonably straight. You need to have, I wouldn't say like a ultimate level of precision in your flying, but if you can just like draw smooth lines, if you're not just snapping the elevator like that, you're just nice, smooth. You just got to
Okay.
be able to do that really. But that comes with practice, and it doesn't take much effort to be able to change your flying style from really snappy like a 3D pilot to more smooth and precise like they require an IMAC.
Okay. So more scale. So you essentially want to fly like a scale plane would fly, because a scale plane isn't going to be snapping up on his elevator, because it's probably not very good for the plane.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it puts a huge amount of stress on the plane, because you're not slowly changing your line of movement, you snapping it. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So it doesn't matter what plane you want to fly, or it doesn't matter what plane that you will fly in IMAC Basic, as long as it's capable of doing what's required. Doesn't have to be an expensive plane. Find someone who can give you some advice about it, or the other option is you could look on YouTube as well. YouTube probably also has a lot of tutorials on that.
yeah, yeah.
And then just start flying and having fun. So
That's pretty much it.
cool. So just a last question. If someone is getting started, then should they
Yep.
get started in basic? Because I've heard you can also go straight into which one is the one above basic? Is that
Sportsman.
a sportsman? Apparently you can go straight into
Yeah.
sportsman. Well, is that something you would recommend or not?
Well, I'd say, well, personally for me, I went straight into sportsman. I never did a basic competition, but I only did that because I had experience previously flying aerobatics, and which was F3A. But if you're a brand new pilot, you've never flown in an aerobatic competition, definitely start in basic, even if you're reasonably skilled, just because there's certain like things with IMAC you have to learn, as I said, like all the precision and the way they judge.
Yeah.
It's better to just go down to basic, learn how they judge, learn how to fly like just smooth, just so you can get the hang of it before you move up to sportsman. Because a big thing with IMAC when you move up to sportsman and beyond, they introduce unknowns, and unknowns are like a really hard part of IMAC because in basic, you for the unknown round, you just fly the normal basic sequence for the year, so they don't give you unknowns. So an unknown pretty much in sportsman and above is a fresh sequence that no one's ever seen before. So no one knows what it looks like, and you have to learn that sequence on the same day that you get it, and then you have to fly it after the first round. So pretty much you have about 3 or 4 hours to learn it before you have to go and fly it.
And
So
and
getting the
yeah, and
no, you go, you go.
you can't practice it before flying it. Is that correct? You have to.
So the only way you can practice it is on your stick plane. So most pilots, we get stick planes, and they're just like little miniature planes, like replicas of what the real ones are. And you have to decipher the unknowns, which only come with a resty. So there's no words. Because, say on like a normal known sequence for the year,
Yeah.
you can get the arrestee that comes with words, so you can read out what the maneuvers are. But with an unknown, there's no words, so it's just the arrestee. So you have to decipher it. Make sure you're deciphering it right, because if you go up and fly something wrong, it could stuff the whole unknown up. So you have to decipher it right, and the way to do that is with your stick plane. So pretty much, you it's got a little stick. I've got one somewhere. It's not with me though, but it's got a little stick on the end, and you just hold it, and it's got the wings. It looks like a plane, and you can sort of like visualize what the maneuver is meant to look like,
Okay.
because some of the maneuvers they give you, they're directional, so you have to fly them a certain direction. So say you have to do, I don't know, a 1 1/4 roll left, exiting upright. If you go 1 1/4 roll right, it might exit you inverted, and then it'll stuff the whole maneuver up, stuff the next maneuver up, and
And
then yeah, it won't be good for your unknown. So the good thing about the stick planes is it sort of helps you visualize what the maneuver is meant to look like.
Okay.
So you can make sure, oh yeah, you're definitely having to roll left here instead of trying to do it with your hand and then it's all wonky and weird and you might get it wrong and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. It's more of a visual representation than trying to visualize it in your mind.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay. Awesome. So then just on that subject, what are your um the levels in IMAC? So from basic to freestyle, is it? I think it's freestyle or unlimited. Which one's the main the uh
So
highest one?
it goes from basic to unlimited. Freestyle is like a different part. So you have to fly IMAC to fly freestyle, but freestyle is not to any schedule. You just make up your flying. It's like 3D. So you do your 3D to your music for 4 minutes. But the actual IMAC classes go basic, sportsman, intermediate, advanced, unlimited. So that's actually the same, I'm pretty sure it is, as the full size do, which is
Yeah.
IAC or something, international aerobatics. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that the names of like our classes are the same as the full size. So, but yeah, there's 5 classes. Um, the progression rate from basic to sportsman is pretty big. Like it's a pretty big jump because in sportsman they start introducing snap rolls and stuff like that. In basic, it's just flat maneuvers with rolls and that's it. In sportsman, they get a bit more complex. They introduce snaps and unknowns. In intermediate, they'll give you negative snaps. The maneuvers start to get a bit harder. There's more like work in them that you have to fly, and the unknowns get harder too. Advanced, they'll give you even harder maneuvers. They start introducing like quarter snaps, 3/4 snaps, 1 1/4 snaps, stuff like that. The unknowns get harder. And then, from, I forgot to say this, from intermediate upwards, they give you a rolling turn. So pretty much you have to turn, in intermediate, it's 90 degrees. You have to do a 90-degree turn and you have to integrate one roll into the turn. In advanced, the new sequence, it's 270 degrees with 3 rolls. And then in unlimited, it's a 360-degree turn with 1 roll integrated. So you got to roll really slowly through that. So that's where it gets hard. But
So
they
it's
unlimited,
yeah.
yeah, you go.
So it's sort of like a rolling harrier, but instead of being in a harrier, you are turning type of thing.
Pretty much. So
Okay.
you're flying, so you just come along straight and level like this, and then you'll just turn. Yeah, sort of like that. It's hard to do with my hand, but yeah,
Okay.
it's like a turn. So just imagine you're doing like just a 90-degree circuit and you just do a 90-degree turn outwards. So you have to do one of those, but you have to do a roll the whole way through the turn.
So it requires a rudder, elevator, and good aileron control. All of those you have to control nicely.
Yeah. You have to know like when to input every single control to make it perfect because they will get you if you go up and down or if the roll rates changes. So you have to be perfect on it.
Okay, cool. So probably, well, luckily that's quite a bit further on after. They,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they don't try to give you that in basic or sportsman. That'd be nasty.
Yeah,
Okay,
it would
cool.
be.
Yeah. Um, so I think that is about all. So it sounds like a lot of fun, and I'm doing this podcast because I thought, well, I wanted to do something for the more advanced flyers, and also because I'm looking at getting into it because it sounds more fun. Or it's not more fun than flying. It just sounds like fun because flying is always fun.
It's a
Um,
good challenge. Like it helps improve your flying. From when I started at the start of the year to where I am now, I can definitely notice there's been an improvement in the way I've been flying. And that's the thing I like about it. You can take it seriously and do well, but it also helps improve your flying generally. So you can just fly anything a bit better than you used to pretty much.
yeah. Okay.
But
Just because you,
another,
yeah.
well, I was going to
I
say, another thing that I like about it is just the people who are there. Like over here where I am, all the people here are just really nice and that they're willing to help you out. And I suppose since we've all got a common interest as well, it's like they're really good to talk to.
yeah.
So it's if you're looking for a good community to fly with, I definitely recommend it because the people who fly IMAC are generally really, really nice.
Okay. Cool. Um, and I think that's pretty much a wrap. Um, I don't know if there's anything else we want to cover in this. Um, I'm just want to see here. No, nothing here. No more questions asked. So I think that is about it. Thank you very much for your time, and hopefully we can have you in a future podcast.
No worries.
Yeah, I think I'm not seeing any more questions from anyone, so I think we can wrap it up. And also to our listeners, if there's any other topics you want us to cover in future podcasts, if you want me to get someone from pattern flying F3A, all of those things, more than happy to. So just post it in the comments or on our Discord or in the WhatsApp group. Then we can, or on the Facebook group as well, then we can try and get those in future ones. And thank you very much, Harrison, for your time, and hopefully we'll see you in future podcasts.
Thank you.
Have a lovely afternoon or evening, actually.